President Biden is expected soon to make the announcement that he's running for re-election. It might come within days of his State of the Union address, scheduled for February 7th. Donald Trump has already announced he's running again. Other Republican candidates may soon enter the fray. So how do we protect election integrity? How do we ensure our next presidential, congressional, and state elections are fair? Well, joining us is Christina Bobb, author of the book Stealing Your Vote. Ms. Bobb is an attorney and former One America News Network investigative reporter. Christina, I want to begin by looking at California and the election integrity watchdog group Public Interest Legal Foundation recently reported that nearly 3 months after the midterm election, 10 million ballots in California are still unaccounted for. So what happened there? Tell us what you know about California and last November's election.
Yeah, well, I think California is doing everything they can under Gavin Newsom's leadership to make elections less integrous, less transparent, much more porous and manipulatable. And, recently, I want to say about a year or two ago, they went to all mail-in ballots, flooding the states with ballots. And these are the problems that result when you do that, is you have 10 million votes unaccounted for or overcounted, or who knows what happened with these ballots. So California, they need to clean up their elections, and I hope that they do. But under Gavin Newsom, the laws, I don't expect the laws to necessarily change, so it's up to the people in California to actually get involved and protect that chain of custody.
Well, nearly 1/4 of a million ballots in California were rejected in the primaries and midterm elections. Nearly half of all mail-in ballots arrived past the deadline. They were too late to count. So explain more about the problem of mass mailings, I guess sending out ballots to every registered voter without those voters actually requesting one.
Right, or if the voters even exist. I mean, we've seen so many problems with the voter rolls, that the voter rolls are so manipulated. For example, in Wisconsin, I know that they have about 4 million people in the state of Wisconsin over the age of 18 who are citizens, which means they could legally vote. Yet they have 7 million people on their voter rolls. I mean, that's unacceptable. And we see that in many, many states. California is another one where the voter roll is extremely porous. And moving away from voter ID allows illegal aliens who are flooding into California to go to the polls and cast a ballot. And so I don't have a lot of faith in the leadership in California right now to make any changes. So it's up to the people of California. And I, recently moved from California. I love California. I have family that recently left California. But the people need to get involved and protect that chain of custody, because otherwise, it's ballots all over the place. Anybody can cast anything.
Yeah, years ago, I was in California and I interviewed several people who weren't even citizens, but they had voted. They admitted they had voted. Two more election practices, of course, of concern are ballot drop boxes and ballot harvesting. So tell us how those might affect the vote.
Yeah, so the drop box is a relatively insecure way to cast a ballot. It's basically like putting your ballot in the mail, except it's not the U.S. Postal Service that takes it to the poll center. It's some random person who nobody really knows who these people are. They might be volunteers. They're supposed to be, government contracted organizations. But as many people saw in 2000 Mules and other places, there's a lot of questions about who's actually accessing these ballot drop-offs. And so are they adding to the tally? In some cases, I found information where people were actually taking the drop box ballots in Republican areas and just tossing them so that they wouldn't be counted. So it's an insecure way to cast a ballot. However, there are ways to secure it. In Florida, we had this issue, yet there were many, many volunteers who literally just stood outside of the ballot box. They did it in shifts to make sure that the ballot box was secure. So that really is the key to these upcoming elections, and certainly for 2024, we have to have people involved. The advantage that we have against the crazy liberals who have taken over so much of our government is that there's more of us than them, and the only way we can use that to our advantage is if the more of us actually are involved and put weight behind what we're doing.
Well, Senator Josh Hawley has introduced legislation that would ban ballot harvesting in federal elections, also require that mail-in ballots be counted and recorded immediately, and that counting on election night continue until completed. No pauses in counting. So what do you think of those steps to ensure election integrity?
I think that's great. I think that's one step, and I think there need to be many other steps. I don't like the centralized counting facilities. We saw in Atlanta and Milwaukee, in Maricopa County and Phoenix, where they take the whole county and count them in one little location. And even though Senator Hawley's legislation doesn't necessarily touch on that, it kind of piggybacks off the fact we need to make the elections more secure by dispersing where the votes are actually tallied. To his point, it needs to be done immediately and public so that people actually know what the count is, rather than them doing it behind closed doors, finding enough ballots later and then saying, oh, look now it's a Democrat who won.
Okay, we'll wait and see if Senator Hawley's legislation goes anywhere, what Congress and state legislatures do, but people need to let them know how they feel. The book is
Absolutely.
Stealing Your Vote. Christina Bobb, thank you for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.